first thing that back then I did is just went out and got a pair of shoes that marketing said I should. And I stepped into them and I thought, that's the squishy one, I like that one. And out the door I went, and within like a half a year I had my injury and had to go to the doctor and start the whole process. So most runners have been there and done that. So what I want to impart to you today is that each person has a unique foot style, and you're going to start to know what yours is. Now, it doesn't mean, like you'll see a lot of marketing that says, wow, look at this. Look at all these little shocky things. Like, does this get your attention? You're going to think this is good for you. The problem is that if you put a person in this shoe right now, and we're all sitting there like this, just being able to see the base of this shoe, you'll notice these things are like coil springs. They're just moving all over the place. And the foot is really not designed to do that. What it's designed to do is to step down on the ground and stabilize. And when you're in bare feet and you step down, you'll notice that your foot will actually either start moving around or will be stable. And what we do in a running store is we analyze what kind of arch you have, the length of the arch, the width of your foot, how high the arch is, and all that determines which shoe you can go into. Now, some people can run in a shoe like this. It would be a very efficient foot. Most people, when their foot steps down, you'll notice that this occurs, that this section starts to drop down. Your arch kind of goes inward. And that is pronation. A little bit's like a natural shock absorber, but when you land, if your foot doesn't get a nice stable base like that so you can go, then it goes over, your knee goes over, your hip goes over. That's where you're starting to get too much momentum and energy this way. You got to get it going that way. So what they do to compensate is shoes build in material like this. That's a harder density material. And when you push on this, this won't mush and move. Now, on the other hand, if you have a real high arch, you tend to be this kind of person. Now, if they go into a shoe like this, now you have a real rigid section that's going to keep the foot outside. Now you've got the opposite problem. Now you're going way outside. So when a shoe is wearing, everybody has new shoes, pretty new shoes on. When a shoe's pretty worn and you put it down, this thing should still look like it's straight here. It shouldn't look like you're falling off the platform to one side or the other. And that's part of the whole process of finding the right shoe for you. Has anybody had a fitting and been fitted? Okay, then you have. What you'll want to do is, like you see it in Runner's World magazine and stuff, where they do the wet test with your foot, where you kind of like step out of the shower and you put an imprint down on the ground. You kind of look at it, and you're, the doctor at that point and say, okay, what is this? Well, if it's a real flat on the ground, looks like a pancake, you know that arch is coming way down. If it's really, really high, you can hardly see any section on the side, you'll know that, wow, I have a really, really high arch. And the object is that when you go into a store, you just want to match your foot to a shoe. So that being said, what I'd like to do is have a volunteer. Volunteer. Very good. And your name is?
Angie.
Angie, how you doing?
Good.
All right, what we're going to do with Angie is she's going to take off her shoe, if you would. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure her foot to find out what her athletic shoe length is. And I read over the paperwork that you guys got. You'll notice that it says in there that an athletic shoe is going to fit about a half size to a full size smaller. So if you're a size 8 in street shoes, I'm going to tell you you're like an 8.5 or 9. And you're going to look at me like, he's crazy, I'm out of here. But that's the fact that they fit a little small. You have to go with the athletic size and give your foot a little bit of room. Because what's going to happen is your foot sprawls and it expands as you're doing your thing. You don't want to start out in the store thinking, that's fine. I don't feel my toes at all hitting the front of the shoe. And all of a sudden at mile 6 in your event, your toenails are hurting, you've got blisters or whatever, you're interacting with the front of the shoe you don't want to do.
So just to clarify, David, the athletic shoe size is going to be half to one size larger than what your street shoe is, that number.
The number will be larger, the shoe is actually smaller.
Right.
So we're moving it up just to get that platform size back again. So yeah, that's a little confusing.
Yeah.
Don't want to mislead you there. But
Like,
put your foot in there.
Sizes.
So let me see what you have here. So in case, all right, I'm going to say the number, do you mind? She's a 12.5. No, just kidding. She's a size 9.
6'9".
Yeah.
All right, she has an interesting thing here. I'm getting her at a size 9, the length of her foot, and that leaves about a half a thumbnail in the front. So I know that that shoe is going to give her plenty of space. Then I'm measuring where her arch is. Her arch is where her foot actually hinges. It's from the heel up to that ball of her foot. That's the arch section, and that's measuring a size 11. So we know that this person has a longer arch section. Let me check this one as well.
I think this is my smaller foot.
And you know, that's a funny. Everybody does have a foot that's different than the other. There's just no two exact things, so it's very common. All right, so she could wear an 8.5. It might be a little tight.
That's what I wear, 8.5.
But a 10.5 in the arch as well over here. So we have a little discrepancy where there's almost a size and a half to 2 sizes difference between an arch length and the length of her foot. You can step off that a second. And what I mean by that is, let's go back to a regular looking shoe here, something like this. If this is a size 9 that's made for her lengthwise, then actually this one would be good for you. It would be good for you. But that means that her toes are going to sit up here and she's going to have plenty of room in the front. Where it gets a little complicated is the shoe manufacturer is going to put the arch at its widest point right here. It's going to put the flex grooves underneath so it bends in the proper spot right there. But her arch does not end right here. Her arch section ends further up in the shoe. So if I got a size, bigger size to match her arch, the shoe would be ridiculously big, but when she stepped down on it, just feeling that arch, it'd be like, wow, my arch is sitting right on top of that arch. So what is a little bit difficult in fitting your foot is you're going to have to make sure that the toe box is a nice round toe box, so your arch can shift up into that area, and you don't have your pinky toes being pushed in or any of that kind of nonsense. So get back up. We're almost done with you.
No, that's okay.
So what I would say here is, can you roll your pant leg up a little bit?
Sure.
And what I can see from her foot real quick is this section here is coming in a little bit. So she has some pronation that if she gets a shoe that's a lightweight shoe that lets her foot move around, she's going to over-pronate. And what that means is the midsole on the shoe is pretty thick. It gets you off the ground and it cushions you. So when the higher it is, and the more you start to move around, that's where you can get those complications. So we're going to need a shoe that has good support in here so she can't push and flip the shoe inside. Next thing I want you to do is just stand on that one foot if you would. That's good. And let me see when you do that on the other side. Good. What will happen? what I'm looking for there is not the fact that can you balance or not, but the fact that the back of the foot is really like a one-posted stool. The front of the foot has a lot of stability to it. So you can get this going on. And what's happening is that pronation that we see happening on your foot, it really shows how much natural drift it's going to get. Now her foot is drifting in a little bit, so in her case what we would do is she would be in shoes like this, or like this, that has this harder density material here. If she doesn't go in a shoe like that, she's definitely going to get more torquing. And the shoes that don't have that just look like this. So there is a really big divide, and we actually put them on our wall that way, of people who have lower arches or pronation and people who have higher arches and don't pronate as much. So you just need to, we wiggle you into the category. So I know you don't like Nikes, but I would normally say, okay.
Well, it's only because I think I got them one time and had blisters because it was like too big or I don't know, something.
It just wasn't your shoe, and that's exactly what happens.
Maybe they were more expensive. I don't know.
But a lot of times, yeah, you have real high-end shoes that cost a lot. The thing is, each shoe company is going to make a shoe for somebody who has all the different foot types. They're going to make the wide shoe that's for the flat foot. They're all going to make the narrower shoe for the high arch person. Doesn't matter which company it is. They're all doing that. So if you step into a shoe that's not right for you, you're going to know it. And here is the one complication that I just want to warn everybody about. The shoe manufacturers design the shoes for a really nice step-in feel. So you take it out of the box, you like the look, the marketing's good, your neighbor wears it, ooh, look, those are cool. You get it on your foot out of the box and you're like, oh, it feels great. So you got a great cushion shoe, out you go. Well, again, if it's not the right shoe for you, like in your case, it sounds like the fit was wrong, it didn't have enough structure in it, her foot was moving around in the shoe, and she got blisters. So even if you have the right size